People say that, but then it has Jake's shape.
Good evening, everyone.
It's funny. Yep.
My name is Steve Webster. I'm the Vice Chair of the Wolfeboro Planning Board. I'll be filling in for Doug Breskin, the Chair, this evening, as he's traveling. I'd like to introduce our board. Vaughn Dugan to my left, Peter Goodwin, Roger Murray, Kathy Barnard, Jane Nielsen, an alternate. Brad Harriman is the Selectman's representative, and Julie Jacobs is also an alternative member. We're going to start this evening with 3 preliminary project discussions. These are non-binding discussions and are for upcoming projects that we'll be reviewing through the technical review committee meetings and the regular board meetings. Julie, would you fill in for Doug as an alternate?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you. All right, first on the agenda, we have preliminary consultation for a boundary line adjustment for Eric Lewis.
Good evening. My name's Randy Tatro. I'm with Norway Plains, a surveyor from Norway Plains for the applicant. And the applicant is Eric and Paula Lewis, located up on Middleton Road. If any of you know, there's an existing farmhouse on Middleton Road. That's Dr. Lewis's. He has 2 lots there. One is the farmhouse and one is the remaining 70-plus acres. He's since built a new home on the back 70 acres, and he is proposing to do a lot line adjustment on the existing farmhouse area that you can see down in this area. You can see it on here a little better. Right now it's about 2.4, 2.5 acres. He's adding about 1.5, 1.6 acres to generally create a 4-acre lot. He's also adding a few, I'm trying to remember the exact amount of frontage on Middleton Road. Not very much. You can see the difference. It's just a few feet to make it 300 feet. The backland is as shown on here. He has a new house and barn on the backland. The lots are conforming. We did form factor on them, even though, you know, one has over 300 feet of frontage and one has over 10 acres. They meet the form factor. If you look real close with your magnifying glass, you can probably see that on there somewhere. I did the colored one so you can kind of see where it is. The back of the big lot borders the Alton town line, just to give you an idea where that would be. The existing lot was cut out and approved by the planning board back in '91 by Linden Design. It was a 2.5 acre lot and got state approval and everything then. That has an existing septic system, state approval, but it also has town water. So, you know, as far as lot size by soils or anything like that, it well exceeds any of those requirements. But we do have that information that we're going to supply under the formal application. We show topography. We show any wetlands on the smaller lot, on the 4-acre lot. I'm asking for a waiver to soils and wetlands on the remaining land. I do have topography on the remaining land. Reason for that is there's already a new approved septic system for his house back here. And so both lots are developed. So there's no, you know, requirement for lot size by soil type. Like I say, the front one's got town water as well. So it gets like half, you know, benefit to that. The waivers that I wrote down have to do with the sections in the ordinance. I was trying to find exactly in the ordinance where it said wetlands delineation was required, and I couldn't lay my hands on. exactly on it. We always ask for a waiver to 174-7, D5 and 6, which is basically the site features, topo, wetlands, soils. So that's what we're asking for a waiver, but only for the 70 acres because it's already been done as far as the septic design. It's generally a minor lot line adjustment. We did submit the formal application today because ironically it's on the same day, the way the schedule's set up. The only slight difference may be that I may adjust it and put revised plans in on the 15th because the stone wall location that shows on the back of this lot, you can see it. I don't know if you can see it on your small copies, but that was taken from the original plans. So we had to go back out and shoot it. So it may change by 100th of an acre or less than 100th of an acre, but we've already done that. So because of the way we got it set up now and we can do the revised plans in a week, then we'll just replace the plans we submitted today with the little tiny change that it's going to be. But that's the only difference that...
Can you point out again where that stone wall is?
So if you look at the back of where this lot's going to be created, you can see the red line, which is what generally the lot's going to look like. If you look in black, you can see an existing interior stone wall, and we like to hold that when we can.
Okay.
But we didn't have our own location on that wall. All we had was the old plans that we kind of scabbed it from, you know, for this meeting in time to do this. So, but since then we've located it, and that may be the only slight change you see in the revised plans. If there's a slight change in the acreage from, you know, like 100th of an acre or something, then I'll just adjust the narrative and, you know, have her put that in the packet instead. But it may not even change it that much. But that's generally it. If you guys have any questions for me, fire
Was
away.
there an old roadway between the stone walls? Or-
I didn't see anything out there, Vaughn, but you could see that there was something maybe grown up. They have horses there, and they have a couple different trails here and there, you know, that the horses used to take. And there is an old path in this area that goes up towards where Mr. Lewis has his barn now. But nothing significant enough to locate. You can see on this side, you can see the new driveway location that goes out back, and that's what we've located in this area right here. That's the driveway that goes out back to the new house. So there isn't, I mean, it's pretty simple as far as we're adding 1.5 acres to the existing 2.5 acres. That's generally it.
You'll be coming back to the TRC tomorrow morning.
Yeah, tomorrow morning we'll do the TRC for it. I don't know that there'll be much department head review on it. I mean, there isn't town water. I mean, Dr. Lewis didn't run town water all the way back to where the new, you know, he has a well on the back there. So that one has a well, it doesn't have town water, but the front lot does have access to it, even though I'm not sure the pressure is the greatest in the area. So we won't get into that. Most likely at the public hearing, I don't know if the owners are going to be there or their real estate representatives. I think Ken Perry is Dr. Lewis's, and Chase was here a minute ago, and with the prospective buyers of the farmhouse. So that's who we've been dealing with on this. Like I say, it's straightforward as they get. If you guys have any questions about anything else, I'm sure I'll answer them.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, next on the agenda is a boundary line lot adjustment. Nancy Jones and Curtis and Vanessa Peterson, 66 and 70 Clark Road, tax map 23127 and 23128. Welcome back.
Yeah, again, Randy Tatro, Norway Plains for the applicant, Nancy Jones and Curtis and Vanessa Peterson. It's located on 66 and 70 Clark Road, of which I'm going to butter across the street on this one. Again, it's a small minor lot line adjustment that's maybe confusing with the small copies you got, but this is the original shape of Nancy's lot, of Nancy Jones' lot. Why? I don't know. It was kind of left that way from when Clipper Home owned the whole thing all the way out back here, and they created this. This looks a little odd here too, and you can see I put a note on there that I'm going to add on the plan and saying it's not part of the Clipper Home lot. It's part of the right-of-way of Clipper Drive. So it's actually part of the town's right-of-way, just as wide down that section. So all they're trying to do is annex 0.15 acres to the back of the Peterson lot, which they kind of been using, and they just want to take care of it. Both lots are on town water and sewer, so there's no lot size by soil type issues there. We did do topography, and there's no wetlands on the site, and so there was no need for that, or soils, because it's on town water and sewer. But the existing lot of the Petersons, I believe, go by memory, was 0.48 acres, which is technically non-conforming. But the other lot, because we're in the village district and it's half acre, this lot's conforming. This lot is 2/100 less than conforming, so it doesn't really fall under the reconfiguration of non-conforming lots. And obviously, we're making this now conforming because we're adding 0.15 acres to it, so the result is favorable anyway. Frontage doesn't change, existing frontage doesn't change. Again, you know, they're both developed sites hooked up to water and sewer. There'll only be one new monument that'll be set. Before Roger asks this question, I'll answer it. The reason we didn't go, originally we were going to go straight on this line, but there's an existing shed there, so we made sure that we kept 10 feet. Even though it's not labeled 10 feet, I'll make sure that's on the final one. That way they didn't have to move the shed or anything, you know. So that's the line that's going to be established, and these are the line, and that's the line that's going to be eliminated. So these will stay the same. This one will be eliminated, and so this will be hooked on to the Peterson piece. Everybody clear on that? Did I say that all right? Yeah. So generally at the end, it'll look like this. This will be the Peterson lot, and this will be the Jones lot. Why it got set up that way, it wasn't my fault. But, and the form factors are on there, before and after, and they meet it. They have to meet the form factor, technically, because they don't meet 300 feet or 10 acres. I'm trying to think of what else would be at issue there. I think that's pretty much it. This is a little odd looking, so I wanted to make sure you understood that. The shed, everything else stays the same. And in the village district, you got the 10-foot setbacks. So that's it. Anybody got any questions?
Will the shed meet the setback?
Yeah, the shed, we made sure it did. So we made sure that 10 feet perpendicular works when we created the line. Because you can see graphically, if you'd have extended that line straight, which was the intent, then it wouldn't have met the setback. It would have been close to the shed. So we asked the people, and they said, yeah, we'd rather keep the shed. And we go, okay, you know. So again, that's, I can't think of anything else on that one, other than we submitted that today too. So we'll go for the TRC for that tomorrow morning. Yep. It's downstairs, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's in this room now?
Up here.
Upstairs
Okay,
now,
thank you.
8:30.
Yeah.
8:30.
Okay. And then There won't be any changes to this one from the, like I mentioned on Dr. Lewis's small little thing that might get changed. But this one should stay the same, and it's for, I think, February 11th? I think it's on, hopefully we'll get on the agenda for February 11th.
Awesome. Any other questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one on the agenda is the Wolfeboro Area Recreation Association Site Plan Review Amendment, 10 Trotting Track Road, Tax Map 163-6. I'm joyfully involved with this project, so I must recuse myself, as Roger just stood up and did himself. So Kathy, could you fill in for me on this one?
Okay.
Thank you.
Is
Do
Roger,
we need Janie for this one, too?
is Roger excusing himself? Okay. No, we really don't, because... Go ahead.
Microphone, please.
No. Turn it towards you.
No.
How about that?
Oh, good, good.
Okay. Again, my name's Frank LeMay. I'm from Milestone Construction. We're the construction managers organizing the project. And this project came to the planning board in December 23 and received approval, planning board approval for a 20,000 square foot building to house an athletic facility. Through the process of design and contacting donors and raising the money, the discussion about both the athletic events that will happen within the building and a walking track for people to walk inside, we came up against each other in that when people were walking, there was concern with people getting hit by balls and things like that. And the idea came to put up an elevated track, much like Brewster Academy, so that the walkers could be independent. When we looked at that, the overhead, the lower portion of that track would be too low for the athletic events that were in there. So the solution was, the best solution was to widen the building by 25 feet, which allows the track to go around. There's area below there that can find plenty to do there, but all the athletic courts can happen. So we've applied for basically an amendment to the previous approval so that this, so that we can build a facility that people want and will be twice as good as the one that was planned. So with me are Jessica Jacobson from Wilcox and Barton, who's the civil engineer on the job, and Doug Proctor, who's the architect on the project, and they can tell you about the site and the building independently. Any questions?
Questions from board members?
Yeah.
What was the question?
No questions?
Not yet. No questions yet.
None yet. Okay. So we'll get you guys.
My name is Jessica Jacobson. I'm from Wilcox and Barton. We are the site civil engineer. Doug Proctor is with me. He's the architect. As Frank
Can you get
summarized.
closer to the microphone?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me okay
Yes,
now?
yes.
Okay. As Frank summarized, the building is slightly larger to allow for the elevated track. In terms of the site civil work, we really were geared in for the drainage. And what we proposed was a drip edge around the building, which will fully handle the building, including the slightly bigger footprint. So the footprint went from roughly 20,000 square feet to 25,000 square feet. But like I said, all is handled, all roof runoff is handled in the proposed building drip edge. And I'm happy to answer any site civil questions or drainage questions that you may have. And similar to the other two preliminary consultations, we'll be at TRC tomorrow as well.
I have a question. Why was the building rotated?
So there was a slight rotation, but I don't think the entrance should still be in line with where it was.
It's rotated. Yeah.
Doug might be able to. Yeah, I can hold it as well.
It was rotated a little bit, I guess that's to the southwest, so that, there you go. So that we didn't have to cut into the hillside as much and disturb so much soil on the hillside. So we brought it in, and now it's parallel with the adjacent field.
So it doesn't appear that it looks like it would cut in less if it were straightened out.
If we went in parallel, it cut in up here, and then we also need to leave room for a fire cistern and for the septic as well, so.
Could you talk a little bit about that fire cistern? Isn't that uphill?
Right, the thought right now is to place it off a trotting track road, and it would be up on the high side of the hill, one, to give head pressure to the fire pump that'll be inside the building, and two, it would make it easier to fill the cistern from the road.
Oh, so it's not going to be filled from runoff from the building then?
From runoff on the building?
Yeah?
No.
No?
No, it gets filled with potable water.
And then capped and that's it?
Right.
Yeah.
And then there'll be evaporation, so there'll be a line running up to the tank to fill it occasionally at a slow rate.
Okay.
Other questions, comments?
Yeah, ultimately, where does all this water go? You know, not just right at the building, but where does it go?
When you're talking about
Runoff
So
and
the runoff-
roof?
Yep, so the roof runoff will be going to adjacent building drip edges. The soil is very sandy below, so it'll be infiltrated, so it'll be groundwater recharge.
Anyone else? Okay. No other questions? Okay, then you're coming to TRC tomorrow, and you're planning on the February 1st, the beginning of February planning board meeting?
That would be
Is that
correct. That would be correct, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, no other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, next on the agenda is public hearing. The first hearing will be Hancock Lumber Company, site plan review, improvements to lumberyard at 100 Pine Hill Road, tax map 175-10, case number 2024-12. Public hearing continued from November 12th, 2024.
And we need to do the special use permit first.
Yes, there's actually two of these. Special use permit for Hancock Lumber, impact within wetlands buffer, 100 Pine Hill Road, tax map 175-10, case 2025-02, formal submission, public hearing. So we'd like to do the special use permit first.
Okay, and before we get started, we had a site visit at 100 Pine Hill Road this afternoon. Steve Webster, Roger Murray, Peter Goodwin, Kathy Barnard, and the project manager attended the site. We toured the site, looked at the site of the drainage improvements and the locations of the new structures.
Thank you, Kathy. You're on.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Henry Hess.
Since there appear to be in the audience interested in this, could you turn that so they can see as well as the board?
We'll start with that, and then I have a little bit more. I'll flip it over for a little bit more detail for the group here. My name's Henry Hess, representing the applicant this evening. I'm with Sebago Technics, representing Hancock Lumber. The special use permit was filed due to the fact that the site improvements themselves do impact within the 25-foot buffer of the wetlands. The reason for that impact is there is an existing storm drainage line that runs underneath the site today, not too far off from where it's proposed in the site conditions after construction or for construction. And to replace that line that's currently crushed on one end, a mobile mic. If we could try and speak to everybody here. This is the line I'm discussing. It is an existing storm drain line that runs through the site here. And it ends at this, what is delineated wetlands in this area here. This area is also, not only has the storm drainage pipe outletting to here, there's also another culvert that goes under the road. So it is actually a drainage pattern for the surrounding area. So in order to actually replace that pipe, we have to work within that 25-foot buffer. And so the intent, of course, is to, in construction, is the site plan itself is treating the stormwater runoff per the requirements of the ordinance, as well as, for the Wolfeboro ordinance, through a system that is a jellyfish or a filter system. It's a proprietary stormwater BMP, and then a detention system to meet the flooding standards as well. And then it outlets, well, we'll flip it right over. In the proposed condition, here's that proprietary system where the filter is to take away the total suspended solids, the phosphorus as well as nitrogen treatment that's required. The detention area to meet the flooding standards. And what we have here is a riprap spillway. So in the event of a large storm event, any water that passes through the system, once treated, outlets back into the existing drainage channel, which is where it goes back into the culvert under the road and continues into the greater watershed. But that is the reason for filing the special use permit that goes along with this site plan. There were a few items I saw on there that you needed in some of the final drawings that required just a few notes about the seed mixes to be used, as well as some additional inspection, maintenance, and housekeeping plans that we can provide as well. But that, I'll certainly open it up to the board for any questions if they have them.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, can you go through the criteria that you're required to do for the special use permit, which you did submit into the record? I mean, if you could just go briefly through that.
Give me 1 second here. Just looking for those current ones in the letter so I can take them item by item for you. Is that under special use permits there, item B, where proposed activities minimizes the degradation and loss of wetlands. Just want to make sure I go through the correct section there for the board. So I can certainly go through those items. For the special use permit there is listed as item under 175-10.1 special use permits. Item B, starting with 1, would be the proposed activities minimizes the degradation to or loss of the wetlands and wetlands buffers and compensates for any adverse impact of functions values of the wetlands and wetlands buffers. Certainly all the stormwater runoff from the proposed improvements on the site will be treated to mitigate any total suspended to mitigate the total suspended solids, phosphorus, nitrogen, as well as other things that may be in the runoff. The proposed activity will have no negative environmental impact to abutting or downstream property in the hydrologically connected water or wetlands resources, including erosion, siltation, turbidity, and loss of fish and wildlife. Loss of unique habitat, loss and decreased beneficial aquatic organisms, dangers of flooding, pollution, destruction of economic, aesthetic, recreational, or private uses. The intent is that water, I don't know if you guys saw it during the site walk there, that water was fairly silty and actually orange in color, likely due to iron in the soils, but the water coming from the runoff from the site now after the proposed treatment should be clean water or more clean. The erosion control measures are being put in place during construction and after construction, both with siltation fences, filter barriers, as well as loaming and seeding, erosion control matting on any slopes greater than 2-to-1, which I don't believe there are any 2-to-1 slopes. We are using riprap in order to mitigate erosion, as well as all slopes will be seeded with endemic or native seed mixes for grass mixes for the areas to remain open but porous or permeable. The proposed activity cannot practically be located otherwise on the site or eliminate or reduce impact of the wetlands or its buffer. That's where a majority of the site drains today in its natural condition. That's why we're draining to there today in the post condition. So that is, in that regard, there's not really another practicable way to do that without further impacts to wetlands in other areas, seeing as the site itself is also surrounded by wetlands. So we're choosing to work in an area that's already somewhat affected by stormwater runoff as well as infrastructure that's already there. Proposed activity utilizes applicable best management practices. As I spoke to a little bit, we are dealing with the erosion control with erosion control matting, filter barriers, riprap, as well as we are using proprietary BMP systems, such as the jellyfish made by contact with the storm filter treatment system. The federal and state permits have been received. Due to the size and what we're doing here, we don't have the need to actually apply for that, any federal or state permits outside of the local special use permit. We are not working, the special use permit application proposes work requires a New Hampshire shoreline permit. We're not actually in a section that requires a shoreline permit. And I believe that is a majority of them. Did I cover them all there, Kathy?
Yeah, thank you very much. Also, this project did come to the Technical Review Committee, and so the chairman of the Conservation Commission was at that meeting, and then the Conservation Commission looked at the application, the proposal, and has no issues with it.
Thank you, Kathy.
My understanding from our site visit is that there is, as we look at the diagram which you have there on the easel, there is a minor stream on the left side which originally went to the right side in a culvert which now is in disrepair.
If I could clarify that, it wasn't a stream. There is some wetland surrounding the site.
It's wetland runoff. I mean, it is
a
a seasonal, it may have some runoff when there's a lot of, it's very, very minor.
Yep.
But the route that was taking was in a culvert, which is now in disrepair, and therefore what you're doing is improving that water flow, cleaning up the water, and then discharging it into what is existing wetland, and therefore it is not really changing a whole lot.
That is correct. Hopefully, we see an improvement in what is probably a blockage of flows today, given the current condition of the existing pipe. But yes, your statement's correct.
Thank you.
What is
Any other
this-
questions from the
yeah,
board?
What is the square area between the two existing buildings? I just can't read it, it's so tiny. This-
Try and point to it here to make sure which one here? This one?
No, it's this, whatever that is.
That right there is it's a stabilized construction entrance. So as larger trucks come into the site for construction, those are installed. It's essentially a series of riprap that shakes dust, debris, and other things off the truck, so it's not taking things off the site or bringing things into the site from outside the site. Helps keep sites cleaner and keeps materials or anything that might have come on the truck, such as maybe an invasive plant, from exiting the site. Hopefully, if it was on the truck, it gets shaken off, for example.
And that's part of the new construction.
Correct. That'll be part of the new construction. That's part of the during construction. That doesn't remain there after construction.
Okay.
I also believe that there is at the right end of that culvert, there is presently knotweed.
Correct.
And I believe that when we were out there on the site visit, you were interested in having that at least discussed, as in it is a horrible invasive and we need to deal with it in a proper way. And you seem to understand that, so I'm not worried, but I figured that, and I think that you suggested I should ask you about that so that it would be on the record.
Certainly. Yeah, Peter, I think that's something, it's a point you brought up on site, and I appreciate just bringing it up in the sense that we understand it's an invasive or noxious weed that does deserve to be treated as such, and the goal will be during construction that, right now the aim in construction is to be done by May, hopefully putting most of the site work completed during this winter phase or late winter, early spring, before we really see much of the plant starting to come out of its dormant phase. We will have to mitigate that in the sense that we can't just put that in a dumping ground or, another refuse site. When we remove that soil, we'll have to either find a means to either burn it or another appropriate way to dispose of it. And we'll probably reach out to NHDOT to see if they have any means at which they currently use for disposing of it.
Can you actually say the name of the weed?
Knotweed.
No?
Japanese knotweed.
Were you able to find the percentage of total dissolved solids and nitrogen and phosphorus that were to be removed?
Yes, sir. The total suspended solids is 85%, phosphorus is up to 75%, and nitrogen's over about 50%, which is in line with the ordinance there and what needs to be removed.
Questions?
Any other questions from the board on this one?
It appears that this application is complete, so I'll make a motion to accept the application as complete.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Now we can open the public.
Now we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak to this project? Please introduce yourselves. Thank you.
I'm Sandra Snyder.
You need to be up close.
Hi, I'm Sandra Snyder, and I live at 94 Pine Hill Road, which is right next to Hancock Lumber. And I just had a few, I appreciate, did you show up?
You're on the left as we look at them.
Yes. So I just wanted to say, I appreciate Hancock Lumber working towards improving their business, but I'm concerned about the lack of fencing bordering my property. We do occasionally have styrofoam, strapping, and paper blow into our yards from their business. As per the deed, Hancock Lumber is to maintain a shred of trees left so that they can shield any structures built on their lot. However, there is almost no trees or fencing present today. I'm hopeful that Hancock Lumber will act on this request and resolve this issue. Thank you for your time.
I'm Dale Austin. I live at 109 Pine Hill Road, across the street. But I'm just here to support her and her. It's actually a screed of trees in the deed that's supposed to be there, and really the fence too is almost nearly gone at this point. The chain link fence. So I would think that would be a concern from a security perspective too. So we just wanted to bring that to the attention, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ram- oh.
Yes,
Introduce yourself as well.
of course.
Thank you.
My name is Judith Gooding Morrison, and I live at 95 Pine Hill, some of the time anyway, and that is directly across the street. My property is interesting in that it abuts a hillside, and during the winter months and the spring, it's very wet. There's actually a small rivulet that comes down through the yard, ends in my front yard, but drains under the road and through a culvert about right here and across to the ditch right in front of the chain link in front of Hancock Lumber. My concern is several-fold. First, I think it's great to have Hancock Lumber as a neighbor because I think there's a lot of potential. I'm especially excited that they've acquired the adjacent lot with the buildings, and we might eventually have a Hancock home service place, maybe? Do you know? Okay, well, I'm hoping, but it expands the size of the property in terms of it being Hancock, and I think that's just great. The new structures that are being placed in the back look to me to increase the lot coverage of materials by about 20 or 30% compared to what's already stored on the site. And if that's the case, we would be looking at 20 to 30% more truck traffic coming in. 109A is a very busy street. Trucks coming in mostly from Route 28 come in over the hill and stop to go in. They have to go in and then they have to make their egress. And this additional, the additional traffic, I think may be an issue in terms of the flow of traffic down 109A. Cars come over the little hill, stop rather quickly. We may have some rear-end accidents. But I'm concerned about the traffic flow with the increased coverage of materials. Does that make sense so far?
Can I speak to that? In a conversation with the representative from Hancock Lumber, basically all the lumber which is presently outside not covered is now going to be covered, and they aren't going to have any lumber not covered. So they're not talking about increasing the amount of lumber on the property. They are increasing the coverage of that so it doesn't freeze in the winter It doesn't get too much sunlight. And so they're not going to be, at least according to what I was told, they're not going to be increasing the total amount of lumber on the site or deliveries on the site.
Okay. This last summer has been very, very busy with truck traffic. And what I've been impressed by is the amount of materials that are stored along the Snyder side and also across the front, oftentimes above the fence line. A lot of this stuff that comes over to my yard is shredded, and it blows against the fence and blows over. So one of the questions that I have, along with the aesthetics of the lumber yard and all of the materials that are being stored there, is whether we could request that an opaque fence be erected across the front, and that the materials here in the ditch, which are not landscaped like the other side to the right of the entrance gate, if these could also be addressed in terms of the trees and saplings and bushes and weeds being trimmed, and the ditch being cleaned out, because this also flows along the side and then back here to the watershed. So it's an expansion of the watershed question. Is that a question?
Okay, well, no, you need to give us your testimony.
I'm sorry, I didn't know whether I was supposed to let him reply to that if he had an answer, as he did before. Okay. Okay. So in terms of the question I had about the flow of traffic, there is a great deal more material on site, even if it's stored differently. And I'm wondering if it's possible at some point to think of having the entrance come in somehow here, built across this, so that there's a flow of traffic this way, and it's not going to be backed up here where cars come over the hill and have to stop suddenly. And I think that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments from the public?
Okay, well, what we're dealing with right now is the special use permit, and most of the comments were for the site plan, and we haven't gotten to that yet, so I think we need to do the special use permit first. Okay, and there were no comments.
Sure. If I tried to write them down as best I could, I'd be happy to respond at that
I would
under
save
the site plan.
the comments about the site plan until you actually present that.
Sure, that's
And
fine.
We need to go ahead with the special use permit.
Understood.
And
I will provide a response
there
at that
doesn't
time.
seem to be any concern about that at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah, we need to probably close the public hearing for the special use, act on it, and then go into the site plan.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing at this time and discuss approval amongst the board on the special permit application.
I see no real issues, and I think that what they're doing is an improvement on the present situation.
Yeah, I think that the improvements for the drainage on the site are really good. They've been reviewed by the engineering firm Ty and Bond on several different occasions, and have taken advantage of all of the comments they've gotten from our engineer and put those into the plans. All of the documents have been submitted. The Conservation Commission has reviewed this. The detrimental impact on the wetlands is much less with the plan that has been presented to us. So I think that's a positive. So,
So the planning director did complete her review of the project and recommended that the application be accepted as complete.
yes, it's, if no one else has any comments, I'll make a motion, if that's,
Would you like to make a motion?
okay.
Thank you.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the special use permit for Hancock Lumber at 100 Pine Hill Road. And there are a number of conditions, and so this is going to take a minute to go through this. Get to it. Okay. The planner has recommended for approval the following plans and issues. Number one, the plans, Plan 1 and 2, need to be adhered to. Number two, the area of existing gravel area to be removed to the west of the new stormwater detention plan should have compacted gravel removed and be loamed and seeded with a mixture that is suitable for the site. This area needs to be returned to pervious area. Third condition, page 5 of the inspection, maintenance and household plan cite that the maintenance of the jellyfish filter is as follows, and they list 3 things. And she indicates this simply doesn't seem specific enough for a unit that includes high flow member fibers. And she's suggesting that we need to include specific language in your submittal maintenance plan prior to the final plan signing. So that's something the applicant would need to do. The applicant shall be required to submit an annual maintenance log per the jellyfish manufacturer recommendations to the planning department to assure compliance with the maintenance recommendations. The applicant shall comply with the pre-construction S&E control plan measures, and the construction sequence needs to be shown on the plan. An inspection by the town should be required of the double filter barrier siltation devices prior to construction. We will need final drawings. Per the third-party review, a letter dated January 1st, 2025, by Ty and Bond, the applicant should provide flared ends for all the proposed pipe inlets and outlets. Also, per the third-party review, the updated drawings show one proposed ADA space. The drawings do not include enough information to confirm that the proposed space meets the ADA requirements, so that issue needs to be addressed. Again, per the third-party review, does not appear that the test pits have been completed at the time. We recommend that the test pits are conducted prior to the submittal of the building permit to verify the field conditions. If applicable, all federal and state permits shall be approved. The applicant should be responsible for the payment of all recording fees, and all of the documents submitted are now part of the record. The applicant shall be required to monument the edge of wetlands in compliance with Section 175-9.1. Within 90 days of the completion of the project, an electronic as-built plan of the proposed development with these details acceptable to the planning department shall be provided. The special permit is valid for a period of 1 year, and there is an appeal process. The planning board have any objections?
I would like to add that any soils that contain invasive species should be dealt with in an appropriate way so that they do not impact other areas.
Okay, so that would be an addition?
That would
Okay.
be an addition, condition, yes.
Okay, Roger, are you going to?
I was going to second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Opposed? Thank you.
all right, sorry. And then just the findings of fact, the applicant has met all of the requirements of the special use permit. The Conservation Commission has reviewed this. This will have less detrimental impact on the wetlands and is in conformance with all of our regulations. That's the findings of fact.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay. Now we can go on to the site.
Okay. Now we can move on to the site plan.
And we've already heard from some of the concerns, so maybe you could address those as you're going along.
I'll do my best. If I miss any, please forgive me. I tried to write it down as many as I could. Introduce myself again, as it's technically a new another application. My name's Henry Hess, Sebago Technics, representing Hancock Lumber this evening.
Could you speak a little bit louder?
Certainly. Sorry, Roger. My name's Henry Hess. I'm here, Sebago Technics, representing Hancock Lumber this evening. For the site plan application, I'll walk you through what the proposed site plan improvements are. We spoke a little bit about it in the previous application for special use. Out there today, there exists a large, well, you have the lumber yard that exists today, and then a large gravel impervious laydown area that's used for lumber storage, exterior lumber storage. There's that existing stormwater drainage pipe that does run underneath the site, today's condition. And the proposed site is proposing to, the proposed project is proposing to add 5 lumber trees to the site. They're about 25 feet tall at the apex there. They're about 85 feet long and 25 feet long, wide. They have about 30 feet in between them. These really are just like a covered storage. They're open air, but the top is a covered roof, so it keeps the lumber dry, keeps it off the ground. Also proposed is would be a pole barn. It's closed on 3 of the sides, open on one side. Very similar means of storage. Houses more than just lumber, a few pieces of equipment, things like that they can put underneath cover and out of the elements. As part of the requirements and the ordinance, we are providing stormwater treatment in the form of a detention area and the contact jellyfish storm filter that then, once detained and treated, then outlets into the existing drainage system. The site itself is taking that gravel lot and making it into bituminous. In the areas where the vehicles will be circulating will be bituminous, and it's actually a reduction of impervious overall from the existing condition of about 60 square feet.
And so what would the coverage then be?
The lot coverage, I can speak to that a little bit. So the overall impervious cover of the site is existing at 142,520 square feet and is being reduced to 140 1,460 square feet. The lot coverage today is for, let's see here. The lot coverage today covers not only impervious area, but building footprint. So the building footprint is, when you look at existing, what am I trying to say? When you look at the existing building cover and impervious area, the buildings on the impervious count as part of the coverage. So if it's impervious and a building goes on it, it was already impervious. So the goal being, it is actually in today's condition existing, it's actually at 67%. We're not proposing to go beyond that. So, because we are reducing the overall impervious by 60 square feet. If I had to put a number to it, we're talking maybe a reduction in 0.5%. If I could cover some of the items I heard from the public hearing of the special use permit, or will you be opening up the public hearing again during this application as well? I'd be happy to cover them as best I can to limit the potential additional comments that may also apply to the site. From what I heard in the previous application, the truck traffic that I believe, Peter, you addressed as well, the intent is that these lumber trees will help keep the lumber that's out there not covered today. It will be covered with the improvements, not so that they can store more lumber, but that the lumber they have can be better organized, last longer, and then right now they're plowing and moving snow in between the open lumber. It's just going to be easier for winter maintenance as well. I heard a few comments regarding fencing and trash and the existing tree line out there. Specifically, we are providing some, we are impacting some of the tree line in the proposed condition, nominally around the edges here. We're cutting it back a little bit just due to the improvements in through there. I know we walked through, we had the knotweed and a few overhanging limbs and trees. Some of those will be removed just on the edges here. There are no proposed improvements for the trees or tree clearing on this side of this side of the lot. This side of the lot will remain.
There are improvements or there aren't improvements?
There are no improvements that affect the tree line on this side.
Okay.
When Hancock Lumber took the site over, that's the tree line that was there when they took over the site. As far as trash blowing, I'm sorry to hear that the trash is moving off the site. I know since Hancock Lumber's taken over the site, they've worked to mitigate that a little bit. It sounds like there's certainly some things that can be done to manage that on their site, and it's something they can consider managing a little, making sure that we're not on windy days having things out and about that could blow around. I think some of the covered storage for the lumber should hopefully help with some of that. But I certainly, I'm sorry to hear that that's happening in today's condition. Trees, trash, traffic. I'm hopeful, though. I did hear a little bit about some concerns with the ditching in through there, and I'm hoping that some of the improvements for the stormwater, or some of the improvements with the storm pipe drainage through there can help improve the flow of water through those ditches that exist today, so they don't get as backed up and cause any issues that they may be causing in today's condition. But certainly can turn it back over to the board with any comments or questions they may have.
Is there anything you can do to change the flow of the traffic to address some of the neighbors' concerns?
The flow of the traffic, certainly the flow of the traffic will change just by the nature that we now have lumber trees out in the yard, that the traffic internally will change. Externally, I can't change the truck traffic on the road. Certainly they will be turning into the site. I don't think they're anticipating a large increase of traffic due to this, as they're not expanding the lumber. They're certainly just providing means to which they can cover the lumber. So I don't think they intend to see a large increase in traffic unless business does really well.
Okay, well, what about the landscaping? I didn't have a chance to look at the regulations. But it seems like you should provide some buffer or landscaping to comply with the regulations. And I don't think you really have added any vegetation. Yet you have changed, I mean, you're adding structures.
Yeah, I believe that section of the ordinance, it was 175, 27, 6C3. When a site plan is submitted to modify or expand the existing building or site improvements or accommodate a change in land use, buffer yard and screening requirements shall only be applied to those portions of the site that are directly affected by the proposed improvements or change in land use, as determined by the planning board. As I did state, there are no improvements, especially on the front half of the site in that area. I mean, the existing impervious does currently go up to near the edge of the property in today's condition. So I'd be open to hear if the board's feedback on that and how they'd like to, it's certainly at the board's discretion to open that discussion.
Can I make a comment? So I think, I mean, the people who spoke are in favor of Hancock lumber, but I think they would like to see a little bit better neighbor, and while maybe something isn't in the law, that RSA that you just read, that's probably not the only consideration that you should have. And I would not want that sort of trash blowing onto my land either. And you said something about, the wood would be covered, so you thought it would mitigate some of the trash, but what I saw is not wood. Mm-hmm. That's not the trash that we're talking about. And then I thought, I know you say I know there's an awful lot of work being done up in the back part for the stormwater drainage and the wetlands and all that, but what did you say about the front? There's nothing. Is there anything planned or not? I was a little confused by what you just said.
Yeah, sorry. The improvements for the site at this dash line, they kind of happen from here back.
Right.
They will be striping some parking formally here, but the actual grading improvements, drainage, and the lumber trees all happen from this dash line to the rear of the property. There are no improvements currently proposed in this corner, along through here, and along this backside. No improvements to the existing building or the existing covered lumber storage here.
So I think that, is it Ms. Morrison? I thought she had mentioned something about something in the deed. Would that supersede? That would supersede RSAs and everything we're talking about right now.
Yeah, that's certainly something I'm open to discussing. I'm not as familiar with that portion of the deed. I'm happy to, I think that's something Hancock Lumber would be happy to work with you on.
No, we haven't opened the public hearing yet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to point that out. I thought she'd mentioned something about an agreement, which, again, I think supersedes the other things that we're talking about.
Did you mention anything about the lighting?
I did not state anything in my previous comments there on the lighting.
And the snow storage.
And the snow storage. We have located snow storage on the site plan, and we have shown lights and provided a photometric to the board as part of the application. The snow storage is proposed in areas along the edges here, there, and there's additional area for snow storage in the new open porous areas of the grass lay down there. The photometric that was submitted did have lights, downlights from the new lumber trees shown. They are all dark sky compliant lights. They intend to be, shielded, cut off, with zero light spill at the property lines.
Well, it seems to me that the application is complete. So can I make a motion to that effect? Is that okay? And then so we can open the public hearing again.
I'll accept that motion.
Okay, I make a motion that the application, all the requirements have been submitted, and so the application is considered complete.
I'll second.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now we can open the public hearing.
Okay, now we'll open the public hearing.
But the things, just to go along with what Jane has said, I think the trash issue is something that really should be addressed. I mean, this location is across from a residential zone, and really, can you speak to that as to how you would address it better?
Yeah, that's something I will do my best to speak to here. I certainly don't like hearing that trash is spilling out into the abutter's yard, and I know that Hancock Lumber certainly is interested in mitigating that as best they can. There is fencing along Pine Hill Road, and it may be just some better mitigation for the facilities and the staff to make sure that trash is picked up, from deliveries, or if there's a bundle of anything that might be cut open and have additional plastics with it, that's picked up at that time. That's something that may be more of a facilities management item that be worth discussing with Hancock Lumber.
There don't seem to be any trash receptacles on the plan.
That's true. There are none proposed on the plan.
Maybe there should be.
Would perhaps a trash bin at one of the corner locations, or perhaps installed interior to one of the buildings so that it's not opening or blowing open and further spreading trash may make sense. I know, especially in today's windy conditions, it'd be nice to keep the trash interior. Is the addition of a trash bin something the board's interested in making a condition?
Well, it's required by our regulations.
I can't imagine they don't have a dumpster.
Right.
We didn't see one this afternoon.
It's probably in the front somewhere, so the trash people don't have to go that far to pick it up.
Is there anything on the
I can't see them
existing
driving
conditions
through.
plan that shows?
That's a valid point. I don't have the trash bin located on that existing plan. That's something we'll make sure we can work with Hancock to get on there and show as prior to final signature then.
So really, the two major concerns are the traffic and the trash and the side yard line and that control. I did hear the discussion about the purpose of the trees to contain the lumber, to give it a place to be covered up and contained. So I agree with Peter that I understand what they're doing in their yard to get it cleaned up. I'm a builder, and they have made steps to, it's better than it used to be. Not sure what the mechanism is to provide some sort of control, but perhaps it's some sort of maintenance plan or operational commitment.
They actually have reduced the coverage on the site, according to what you just told us. That is, it's already in excess of what's allowable, but the coverage is being reduced.
I think that comes with the better organization, because now there's specific places to put things, rather than just kind of willy-nilly all over the place. So the trees are a good thing.
Maybe we could hear from the public.
Relative to what happens along the frontage and the view into the property, I note in various areas you have some parking spaces delineated, but in most of the areas where I know there is parking, I don't see any indication of how many spaces there were, how many spaces there. I know there's a question about the ADA spot, but I think on the plan you should delineate at least the existing parking locations and show that there's no reduction in parking.
That's certainly, that came as a comment for Ty and Bond as well, and recommendation that we that show the existing striping that's out there today, to your point, prior to final signature, and that's something that certainly can be
And if,
provided.
in fact, there are materials that are stored in the parking spots, that's probably a problem.
Understood.
Yeah.
The plan review indicates that there should be 19 spaces for the office retail, 5 for the warehouse, and they should be marked. I think if you mark parking spaces, then people park where they're supposed to, hopefully.
That's certainly something that per the time bond comment, we can certainly add to the plan there, as was mentioned, and make sure that the parking striping that's existing today is shown.
Yeah, and perhaps if the parking is up front, that will help screen some of the materials that are, stored there. I don't know what's there right now.
Okay. Majority of the parking in today's condition, happens along the front, where if you were to pull into the driveway and take an immediate right, a majority of the parking happens along that right side in front of the building. Additionally, there's parking that happens that's not striped. I think where most of the board parked today, in front of the left side of the building, if you will, along the wall there, along the retaining wall. So while that's not striped, that does serve as parking. So we can certainly make sure that the striping that's out there today is shown out there, and if it's something where we need to just stripe the remaining parking spaces that in the proposed condition, that can be shown.
While they're marking the ADA spot, they could just finish it.
That ADA spot is marked on our plans. I did see that Time Bond asked for a few additional pieces of information on that. And in marking that, certainly, again, we can mark out where the rest of those may be required. If only 12 are striped out there and 19 are required, we can stripe the remaining.
Well, it's 19 plus 5, so 24.
Thank you. We can stripe the remaining spots to get to 24.
Are there any other comments from the public on this part of the plan?
Yeah, if you really need
You need to come up and speak with us.
Speak to us.
I just have some pictures here of what I look at every day. There's no screening whatsoever in what the lumberyard actually looks like. I mean, if anybody's interested.
I know.
Oh, thanks. It's about the same, but a little different. That's what you.
It's not something within our jurisdiction.
This really doesn't fall under our jurisdiction, unfortunately.
I guess I would like to say something, because on your plans, you seem to have lighting for these new structures, but all of the lighting seems to be appropriate and dark sky compliant, and all the lighting which you have on the site is in that mode. Is that correct?
Yes, and if you need additional specs for that, we can certainly submit that with the final plans to make sure that if you need additional information, on record,
You
we can
need to
provide
speak
that.
up, I can't.
That can certainly be provided if you need additional information on the lighting to confirm their dark sky compliance.
It looks that way from the,
I can tell you they are, but again, if there's a question there, we'd be happy to submit more documentation. I can confirm the dumpster location. By the way, there are 2 on site behind the storage barn. So to the rear.
Anyone else from the public like to speak? Come on up, please.
Mr. Goodwin, thank you for clarifying, I'm Judith Morrison again, for clarifying the materials question. It occurred to me that what happened this summer was the back was cleared for this future project and all the materials came on site. So there are 20 to 30% more materials than there were over a year ago. But they will now be housed, if I understand correctly, under the new structures. Does that mean that there'll be nothing along the side fencing or across the front as it is now?
I am not sure of that. However, it seemed as if the person in charge was saying that they wanted all their lumber under roofs because of freezing issues,
Oh, yeah.
because of getting too much sunlight and having the boards crack and therefore not be useful. So it seemed like everything was going to be under cover, as in under these new roofs.
Okay. I certainly hope so. I think, however, now that they're used to having everything out and around and stored as much as, because it's a very busy place, I would like to know that this is not an indirect permission to move what's there now underneath, but still store things around the side. Because that's part of where the trash is coming from. But I'd like to go back to the wetlands question again. This area here, this is landscaped to the right of the entrance gate where you went in today. And as you went in, you might have seen the shredded plastic up in the tree just outside the entrance gate where the pallets were resting. But this is wetlands here. And the only reason that it's not more flowing is that it has all kinds of natural and unnatural debris in the ditch that has never been cleaned out, and it has all sorts of stuff growing in it now. This is wetlands that needs to be connected to the back wetlands in order to be restored. And that would certainly improve the front of this view of Hancock lumber. If you drive by, you see it just looks dreadful. And you look into the lumber yard. I would strongly appeal, if you're passing this information back, for a fence, as a solid wood fence as high as the chain link fence is, that would obstruct the view, and it would also probably contain a lot of the debris that comes out. And I would certainly welcome anybody from Hancock Lumber to come across the road and pick up this stuff so I don't have to. And they have been invited to do that in the past.
Thank you.
Could we continue this so that the applicant can go back and talk to the people and see if they can address some of these issues?
I think that's a good suggestion.
I mean, if that's...
Could I offer that I certainly hear the concern of trash, and I don't think it's okay to have the trash blowing around either. And I know Hancock's committed to being a good neighbor. I think with the implementation of this plan and going forward that there have been opportunities where Hancock has begun cleanup of the site. I think there's certainly, I mean, in walking the site today, I'm sure you saw a few things down the hill I think having some eyes on this and getting contractors on the site that can actually be doing the construction gives an opportunity as well for a holistic site clean at that time as well. So I know that's something that Hancock's committed to being a good neighbor and is interested in mitigating the trash. So if that's something where we can talk about providing some sort of overall trash cleanup, certainly during the construction or pre-construction, to make sure that that yard is cleaner than when we started. If the
Are
board's
there
amenable to that.
wetlands out in the front and then along that left side, up front?
There are some limited pockets along the front here, and then of course along this whole side. This
Yeah.
whole side here contains wetlands along this edge. Mostly stemming from a swale that starts to come down off the hill, and most of the runoff from the road hitting this swale. And that's kind of right in this pocket here is where you start to pick up that wetland, and then it heads down to the rear. Thank you.
I will suggest that what is being proposed here in the application is really about the back half of the property and really has nothing to do with the front half. I also believe that, as you suggest, Hancock Lumber would like to be a good neighbor and deal with the issues which are in the front half. But they are unrelated to this particular application, in my point of view. And although that may sound, not very friendly, you are dealing with something in the back half of this property and not what's going on in the front.
Although it is a site plan review, and I think we should see the parking. The 24 spaces are not really shown here. We have questions, especially about the ADA spot. I mean, I think that would help.
So yeah, I would agree with the parking, and that should be labeled on the plans. But other than that, I don't think that these litter issues, although they are important to the people around and important for Hancock Lumber to deal with ultimately, they're not really associated with this application.
I would point to the review memo from staff as well regarding some of the items and recommendation that we submit the parking striping prior to the final plan signatures as well. So that's certainly something that I know staff is aware of. Time bond is recommended, and staff has currently recommended that as part of prior to final plan signature.
Staff also recommended that the location of the presumed septic system be shown, as well as the connection to the building. I know there's kind of a rather frightening location, which appears to be, if not next to wetlands.
Yeah, that existing septic field out there is labeled on the existing conditions plan. We don't have the dashed outlined extents in terms of finding an HHE 200 permit. But that septic is labeled on the existing conditions and located kind of between the building and the side property line there.
Where is it connected to the building?
Where does the line come into the building? That is not located on plans, so thank you for bringing that up, Roger. But it should just be a direct line into the side of the building here.
But none of the structures that you're contemplating increase the amount of septic system issues.
Correct. There's no proposed changes to the septic system today and no proposed new bathrooms proposed interior. I don't think there's an increase in the number of users there at this point. It's the same bathroom and septic that have been out there.
Can I just add one comment? I know that we're talking about the back part of the lot. I don't think that should negate talking about any other wetlands, even if the wetlands weren't originally on the plan, because any other business could say, I'm only going to deal with this part of my property. But since I'm not talking about that part, the planning board shouldn't be addressing it. And the whole lot belongs to Hancock Lumber. And they are neighbors, and the whole lot belongs to them, and I just think that they should be looking at the whole lot. I understand the letter of the law is that you're only talking about the back part, but they own the whole thing, and they should be good stewards of the land and the neighborhood.
Jane, can you please clarify what you mean regarding the, we should be looking at the wetlands in the front? I think the wetlands are located on the front, on the plans, but there's no impacts to those wetlands over there. There's no improvements proposed. There's no construction proposed on those other wetlands. We've shown impacts within the buffer that are proposed as part of the construction in the site plan. I just don't fully understand the comment. If you could clarify, please.
My feeling is that there may be an issue with the wetlands in the front with trash, or whatever. That's kind of what I'm hearing.
Okay.
And so just kind of escape looking at that, just even looking at it. It doesn't seem right to say, well, we're just talking about some changes in the back of our lot.
I think I better understand now. Thank you.
I don't know that you can just ignore part of the lot. You own it all. You own it all.
I do understand where you're coming from now, and I think I've spoken to that a little bit in the sense that I know Hancock's certainly committed to being a good neighbor and keeping trash out and having a holistic cleanup for the site. I know since moving in, they've started that process, but I recognize there's certainly plenty more to do there for them. I think it's certainly the start of the ability to continue to keep the site cleaner and make it clean to reduce the amount of trash out there.
Yeah, I would like to see trash receptacle or receptacles either undercover in a building or someplace where the trash is most likely being generated. I think that should help clean up the neighbors' properties.
Could you point out where those dumpsters are, please, on the map?
And I apologize they weren't located on the plan,
Yeah,
but
just
I can point to them for you. Those dumpsters, I believe, are back on this portion of the
So
covered.
pretty much central of the buildings.
Yeah, not quite center, off center. There's currently, this is how you enter and exit, so
Yeah.
it's off center though.
And then there's going to be new trees out in the back, so that's going to be right in the smack dab middle of everything.
There's 45 feet between these two buildings, so there's certainly room for circulation through there. But again, I hear the
has to be
board's
room
concern,
enough.
and I hear Roger's concern.
It's
It's
got to be
something
room
we
enough
can-
to back in to pick them up, Roger, and it's to bring them out and everything. They can't be put underneath anything.
I hear the.
They're
I hear-
central.
I hear Roger's concern there, and I think it's something we can show on the final plans that come to you so that you have them and they're visually on the plan.
But I want to just say something, since my husband did work for the trash company for a while. Depending upon what they have for dumpsters and the company that they have, if you put it on the map, on the plan that they have to go there, and they get new-sized dumpsters with different trucks, they may not be able to stay there. So then they're out of place again. So is that really the smart move to say, oh, the dumpster has to go here? I can see it on new construction, this space that you planned for it within this area, but this is an ongoing business. It's been using particular things for a while. What happens if we have another sale of the companies again? What happens when we get, a new trash company comes in? The last sale that happened in the last 20 years, should I say, increased the size of the trucks completely. I ended up with a dumpster at my shop that was twice the size of what I had before, and they keep leaving it in the middle of the parking lot because they couldn't seem to back it in. I'd say to just be a nice neighbor, not to specify where a dumpster has to go in an ongoing business, because it's just going to make hardship when they have other things with their neighbors that they need to take care of instead of trying to figure this out.
We are empowered to regulate trash under the site plan review regulations. I think the board has consistently done it in the past, and I think it should be done here. it can be a particular location, but if they're not on the plan, the area might well not exist.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to continue this until 2 weeks from today. We have another meeting, and we could address the issue of the dumpsters, the parking, and also I'm concerned about the landscaping. It seems that there should be some landscaping provided, but we can all do some research into that, I guess, for next time. But that's my motion.
Do I hear a second to that motion? I'll second the motion. All in favor to continue, say aye.
Aye.
No.
No,
Opposed?
No.
Yeah, no, I think it could be a condition.
I think it can be a condition,
Yeah.
too.
All right. I'll entertain another motion to add some conditions to
Yeah,
our consideration.
we need to close the hearing.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing for now, so that we can discuss this. What would you like to add?
I would propose an extra condition, another condition to have in the plans which are presented before the thing starts, to have striping of appropriate parking places, to have a place for a dumpster, and to have additional landscaping around the edges of the property in the front area.
I second that motion for additional conditions.
Any other conditions suggested?
Well, there's 2 pages that the planner has suggested. How do people want to deal with that?
We've got conditions to be met prior to signing of plans and then some post-signing conditions.
Leanne, do you have a hard copy of the site staff memo comments? I don't think I have a hard copy of that one.
Okay, well, if nobody else is going to go through these conditions, I'm going to go through them. So you're going to have to listen to me again.
where does it start, Kathy? I'm lost.
Page 7.
Page 7,
7?
yeah.
Okay, the conditions the planner suggests are as follows. These are conditions to be met prior to the signing of the plans, and you can't do anything until the plans are signed. The following plans, number 1, the following plans are amended to this approval and are hereby incorporated into the approval, and there are
12.
12. Thanks, Brad. Number 2, per the third-party review letter dated January 1st, 2025, the applicant should provide flared ends for all the proposed pipe inlets and outlets. Please revise the final plan to reflect such. Updated drawings show the one proposed. Am I looking? Yes, I am.
Can we replace that with Peter's condition?
Yeah, okay, per the third-party review, it does not appear as though the test pits have been completed at this time. We recommend that test pits are conducted prior to the submittal of the building permit to verify field conditions. If the conditions do not match the design assumptions, then the design should be modified to account for the field conditions. Per 175-21G2, the applicant shall provide legally binding documents for filing with the Carroll County Registry of Deeds. The sewer is not shown on the utility plan. Please add the presumed septic system to the utility plan. The 100-year flood elevation data shall be added to the final plan. That's number 7. 8, save for conditions for the site buffer. I guess we've decided that's not needed.
Does Peter's condition fit there?
Yeah, okay. That would be good.
That the plans need to reflect striped parking for 24 cars.
No, that's
That's number Okay.
3.
that was,
Okay, Peter's condition, then the final drawings must be submitted. All of the documents submitted with the plans are part of this application. Conditions to be met after the final approval. Erosion control shall be properly installed on site prior to any site construction. Security required. Staff recommends only a stabilization security in an amount to be set by the third-party review engineering firm. This security shall be submitted prior to any site disturbance. 3, active and substantial development for this project is defined as construction of the parking lot and associated drainage. These improvements must be started within 24 months of the planning board date. Let's see, for perpetuity vesting purposes, RSA 674-39, substantial completion for this project is defined as completion of the project. 5, snow storage. Snow shall be removed and stored such that the drainage structures can function properly. 6, this needs to be filed with the Carroll County Registry of Deeds. 7, we need as-built plans, and there is an appeal process for all of this. That's condition 8.
And litter storage would be,
And then the added ones.
is that number 9?
So we're adding the added parking striping plan, dumpster locations, and add landscaping in the front area. Should cover it. Right, are we
So
ready to
that's
vote?
approving the project with those conditions.
you looking for a second?
I second
So
that.
that's your motion? We have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you for your time and consideration tonight.
All right, moving on. Jaya Realty Trust, 160 South Main Street, tax map 218-103, case 2024-14. We have a request in writing to be continued from November meeting to, when did we decide on that?
And February 11th.
February 11th.
Is that going to give them enough time to put together plans?
We're not sure on that, Roger, but we can continue it again. We felt that we could continue it tonight, so we didn't have to re-notify it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue this GB Realty Trust for 160 South Main Street to February 11th, 2025, in the Great Hall at 7 o'clock.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, next thing on the agenda is discussion items for petition warrant article to amend 175, Part 1, Article, what's that, 27?
Yep.
And Chapter 175, Part 1, Article 14, Section 175-91, move public hearing to January 21st, 25.
Okay, so I make a motion to move this to a public hearing on January 21st, 2025, 7 o'clock in the Great Hall.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next discussion item is short-term rentals. To add an article to regulate short-term rentals, move to public hearing on January 21st, 2025.
And also, we have to discuss it first, changes.
We want to discuss the changes before we move to...
Yes.
Okay. Roger, do you want to jump in on that one?
I think this makes the changes that we discussed at the last meeting. And I think we should proceed to schedule the public hearing.
And the changes that we made were associated with the term emergency and egress. And the idea that you could get out in an emergency, a window, is a less stringent requirement than having two doors to any living space.
Yeah, I think it was escape and
So
Escape and egress.
this is a change to make it more or easier for people to deal with. Did someone move to have this put?
I just want to check were all the changes made properly that you guys did?
Yeah, I believe the changes we discussed, I compared it to my notes. And
Okay, we did receive an email today from someone who was concerned that there are no maintenance requirements in the regulations for such systems such as annual pumping, and that the absence of these enforcement procedures are potentially put the welfare of the neighbors at risk.
I think in terms of the enforcement provisions, this would, because it is a zoning ordinance, it would be enforced pursuant to the zoning enforcement procedures. And I think it's RSA 670-something, 1670. Basically, if there was a violation, a citation would be issued, and if it was then not corrected, enforcement action could be taken pursuant to state statute.
Okay, so I make a motion to move this to the second public hearing on January 21st, 2025, at 7 o'clock in the Great Hall.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Additional discussion item, revisit the vote. Kathy, do you have a motion that you'd like to introduce on the conditional zoning permit?
Say that again?
what was it?
The conditional use permit?
Yeah, that's what, did you want to say something? Do you want me to just, okay. Okay, I voted in favor of the conditional use permit, and I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the vote taken on December 17th, 2024. I need a second for that.
Here's a
Could
second.
you explain what that is a little bit bigger than just the date?
Okay,
I want to change my vote
On what?
on the motion to place the conditional use permit provision on the town warrant.
Okay.
So on the town warrant, it'll be a 7-0 vote instead of a 6-1 vote.
Okay, so there's a motion and
Motion, do we have a second?
Did
Say the
somebody,
motion again.
motion to reconsider the vote taken on December 17th, 2024?
Because
On
we'd like to
the
change it.
conditional use permit.
I can second that.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do we need a motion to do a new vote for this now, then?
Yeah,
That's what I would
right,
think.
yeah.
Yes.
Do we all re-vote, or just the one person who wants to change their mind?
Okay, all right,
we all
well,
vote.
I voted, I made the motion last time to move this to a,
Oh, yeah, that's right. We can't do that because Doug's not here. He can't.
Yeah, we can't,
to have all the same people here.
well, we have a quorum.
we have a
Yeah, but
quorum.
we can't vote for him.
We have a quorum.
No, we have a quorum.
We can.
Is
We do
that,
have a quorum.
I think, yeah.
you got a quorum, but I mean, can you change Doug's vote for him?
His vote's not going to change.
Changing Doug's vote, we change.
We're just changing yours, so why do we all have to vote again then? That's what I'm getting at.
You got a record of 7-0 in the
Yeah.
minutes, I
right.
think.
It's still 7-0.
Okay. Just all kind of convoluted.
Okay, so that was my motion, it was seconded.
I seconded it, yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is the approval of the minutes, December 17th. I was not there.
I think Michaela was operating under difficult circumstances given the microphone problem. On the simpler stuff, Ann Blodgett's first name has an E on the end of it. And then at the bottom of the first page, I think we should put, that should read, to amend the conservation subdivision provisions. And I think saying removal of exemptions is misleading because we made it so that you'd need to be exempted. We didn't change the zoning districts, although we did revise the standards of review and document requirements. I think Vaughn summed it up pretty well on the next page, but do you have any comments on the minutes on that?
I didn't get them, so I don't know what I said. I'd like to table them because I haven't received these.
Okay.
Can we table them for next meeting? I didn't get any. Did anybody else not get any minutes? Yeah.
Okay, you made a motion.
Yeah.
You made-
I'd like to make a motion to move the approval of minutes of December 17th to our next scheduled meeting.
Second.
I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor to table till the next meeting?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right. Next item is informational items, the ZBA notices of decision.
Can I say I think this is a good idea, because if you don't watch the meeting, you have no idea what's going on. Are we going to reciprocate? Did they ask?
Well,
They're
our-
available on the
Our meetings come
website.
after theirs, so,
Oh, okay.
right? Anything they act on before us, so, I mean, this is good for us to have, for something that's gonna be coming to us,
Yeah,
within the next meeting or two, but to reciprocate, I don't know if there'd be a need.
Right.
No need.
You know,
I wouldn't think so.
Can I ask, did this come about because they voted one way and we sort of voted the other? Because they denied the wells, but we approved the zoning, subdivision. So I'm just wondering, I mean, this seems to be the only, the only thing they passed along to us. So I was kind of curious about that.
I honestly don't have an answer. Suzanne didn't provide me an answer. She just asked me to provide the notice of decisions from here on out to the board.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand that, and I'm probably asking rhetorically, but I did wonder about that.
I think
Please say thank you when you see her.
having the pickleball club, 2 applications come to us, I think is helpful because we will be acting on them under site review.
Yeah.
And in theory, if people go to the Board of Adjustment first and then come to the planning board, as I think they should, then I think it's helpful to have the decisions so we know what the Board of Adjustment determined.
But we still can make our own decisions, right, about what we're going to do.
Of course.
Just information.
I think it's informational so that we're aware of what they approved. Because it may affect what we're looking at in the future.
I would also suggest that if they denied it, then we wouldn't have to deal with it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So therefore, to have a notice of a decision is useful.
I'll entertain a motion. If there's no more discussion on this.
Ken's coming up to talk to us, right, Ken? Ken, you're alone. Public.
So actually, I have a either informational or public or board question. It has come to my attention a number of times that our shorefront residential district zoning is being interpreted possibly not in the way that we intended it to be. So I think at some point soon, the board should have a discussion about what was intended by some of the items in this. And I don't want to do this tonight, but I think we should address it soon. The shorefront residential district, and I can go through and outline the things that people keep telling me are problems and not as we portrayed it or discussed it in our meetings, so.
Can you get that information or those questions to the board so that we
I can, yeah.
then see what they are and
Sure.
Then we can think about them before we get to the meeting?
Right, no, I'm just asking that we put that on our agenda, a discussion.
I mean, I've got a handout that I think came from Tavis, which says approved at town meeting 3/12/24, which has what I understand to be the current regulations. I also, in the book that we were given as planning board members, have another set which is different. Does not include what was done in 2024.
So that's not the issue. It's actually it's found elsewhere. If you go on the website, you can find it. It's a little hard to find, but it's there. It's the interpretation of this regulation that's causing troubles right now. And I think we should review what our intent was and possibly go back through the meeting notes because we did discuss things.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think we should put it on our agenda on the, what did we say, the 21st? And I can bullet the questions that have come up.
Okay, so what do you want to add to the agenda? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
That we discuss the intent of the shorefront residential district ordinance
Okay.
in some specific areas.
Clarify what's in place now for the rules.
Just
and
so
regs.
that our idea and our zoning is reflected in enforcement now. So we should.
Any other discussions?
I have another information in that, I don't know, a year ago, or more. There was a move to get the resource inventory updated, which is part of the master plan. The Conservation Commission has been working on this, worked with Moosewood, Ecological, and they have produced maps. There are some minor issues with the maps, but we believe that they can be corrected, and so therefore we, in a relatively short time, are going to have the resource inventory done.
Congratulations.
There is issues as to what you end up putting on those maps as the narrative. It may be that we produce that or that Moosewood does. But we're still working on that. But there's progress being made.
Great. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
All right.